You need to turn your hands to most things. Otherwise, once you start getting somebody else and it's going to start running away with the cost. Organised, really. You got to think like, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing the next day? What am I doing the day after that? Have I got 4-inch screws for this? Have I got so and so for that? Have I got this for that?
Welcome to the Self Builders Podcast, the podcast that covers everything you need to know to get on the way to building your own house. We're brought to you by Mayflower Mortgage and Finance, the self-building finance specialist in the UK.
The Self Builders Podcast brought to you by Mayflower Mortgage and Finance. I'm your host, Jack Dugan, and really grateful for Adrian, who has joined me on today and is a self-builder and he's come to share his insights into his project. Yeah, Adrian, over to you. Firstly, could you just start a little bit about yourself, about your project, how it came about, and what drove you to do it in the first place?
Yeah, we brought this property in 2013. To be honest, we brought it never with the intention of building a new house. We'd got an old cottage on the property with an 80-foot barn on the back of it. And we put planning permission in for that because the owner we brought it off, he tried twice before to get building permission for a new build. And he got refused on both times. So we thought a new build was out of the question. So we set about renovating this old cottage. And basically we wanted to take this barn down on the back, rebuild it because it was basically falling down. And the council says, yeah, you can do that. You'll have to get change of use on that. So we get change of use on that. And we got allowed to use all the square volume of that. And then we submitted all the plans to what we wanted to do. And it was going to end up being a bit of an upside down house, really. And because the way the ground was. It was having the bedrooms downstairs and the living accommodation upstairs. And they come back to us after like a fair wait. And this says, basically, it's 18% too big. What you want? And it was on the same footprint, really. So anyway, so I guess my scale roll out and has a look at it like, and I says, right, I says, yeah, 18% is about 6'6" too long. I said, so if I take that off, I can have it. And basically they said, yeah, because them days, they came out to you. And so we take the 6'6" off, resubmits the plans thinking it's like straightforward now. And they come back and they says it's 50% too big now. And I says, 50%? I says, how can it be? I've reduced your 18%. How can it be 50% too big now? They said, well, I don't know, but it is. And if you want to appeal, you can. And that's basically all I got off them. And in the meantime, like this plot of land, we got about 7 acres here because it was like small holding. And down the bottom of our land, in the same village, they were building a new house and it was like 5 times bigger than the original. And they were trying to make me shorten my footprint. So I says, yeah, I'm going to appeal this. Anyway, I get onto the architect and he says, right, he says, I can't handle appeal. He says, you need a building consultant. He says, well, no, a really good one who works part-time in the council. So I gets on to her. She comes back to me and she says, right. I said, I've had a look at this lot. This is what you want. I said, basically, you want to build an extension on your original property, don't you? And I says, yeah. And she says, right. I said, well, because it lies in the green belt, you're only allowed a percentage of an extension on what living accommodation you've got now. So I says, oh, right. So she says, and basically, the 50% they're offering you, it's still too much. You should only be allowed about 46% by my calculation. So I says, you're joking? I says, it ain't worth doing on the 50%. I said, so basically I've had it then. And this is where the new build come about. And she says, no, not really. I said, because I said, this might sound a bit mad. I said, but this is the government guidelines and the council are just adhering to it. I said, if you're prepared to pull that old cottage down and pull that barn down, with both of them virtually falling down, she says, you're allowed to build a new build up to 5 times bigger than the original. And I says, you're joking? And she says, no. I says, right, then I says, my advice to you, I says, build a new build. I says, because it'll cost you less money and it'll be a lot easier to do. So I puts the application in for that. And we gets that straight away. And we'd struggled for 10 years trying to get this old cottage moving along. Then puts his application and gets it straight away. So, like, if anybody else is sitting in the green belt pulling their hair out like we was for 10 years, get a decent building consultant who knows what they're on about. I don't know whether the planning laws had changed in the green belt, but she certainly helped me. And the funny thing, like all the architects I had over the years when we first brought this place and different planning applications we put in, she never charged me a penny. She never charged me a penny and gave me the best advice. And then once she gave me that advice, I was just like, I was sailing along then. I put the planning application in, we gets that passed, and then they knocked it back a couple of times on the size, which she said they would do, because again, it lies in the green belt and it had to look a certain way, this cottage did. It had to like blend in with the village because it's in a really old village. So basically that's how it come about. So once we got the planning, where's away then?
What was the motivation behind the project? Was it to build the sort of dream home because you couldn't find anything else on the market, or was it always something?
Well, no, not really. Like, I was in our last. I've had about 5 houses, and up until I brought this one, and I'd always renovated old projects, and I'd never ever thought I'd build my own house. And then we brought this place because we was looking for somewhere with land. Really, we'd got a couple of houses. The wife was like ex-farmer's daughter, and we was looking really for somewhere with land. And I'd got like quite a few American trucks and quite a few stuff to store. So I wanted somewhere with a bit of room. And this place come up and it just ticked all the boxes, really. It was like in a really nice village. It's 2 miles from the M6 and we can't hear it. So like all the travel links were great. It was in the right spot. It was in a really nice village. And like it was the worst house in the best like place I could afford. And it's like it just ticked all the boxes, really.
Perfect. What route did you take to build? So did you use a main contractor, or what was your? I know you said
once we'd gone down the path of a new build. Originally, my lad was going to do a lot of the building because he'd got his own business at the time, and then we get started on it. We digs the footings out. We like plans it all out and gets all the footings sorted. We lasered them all out. He helped me do that because he's really good at that. So we lasered it all out, gets it all nice and square. But I'd always had this idea of going down, building with the ICF. I'd looked at timber framed and I didn't really like that. I didn't really like the traditional brick and block. What really drew me to this was the air tightness. And like I know, like the council, and they go on about U values and the R value and all of that. But to me, if the building ain't airtight, you can put like a metre of insulation up in your loft. But if you got great big air gaps down the side of it, then you're just wasting your money. You know what I mean? So, like my eyes, I wanted something that was airtight, and the ICF ticked all them boxes. And then with it, the air tightness comes your low heating, and like it ain't going to cost a lot to heat. And that was the main draw for me to build out of this product, and it's really fast to build with, and it's really easy to build with. We had to take a course on it before they sold us the product. But
did you have trades on site, or have you done it all yourself?
Pardon?
Do you have trades on site, or have you done it all yourself?
No, I've done it all myself. My lads help me out a lot. Like if I come to an area or get stuck, and originally he was going to brick skin it all, because we wanted to put a brick skin around it. He was going to brick skin the whole lot, and then he took a job, and he was a bit worried about it really, because he said, "I've been offered this job." I said, "Look, you've got to do what's best for you." I said, "You go and take your job." I says, "No, I'll sort this." He says, "What, you're going to do it yourself?" I says, "Well, I'll have to." And I said, "Because I'm at the wrong age to borrow a whacking amount of money." I said, "I'm not comfortable borrowing 150,000. I said, "But like, And that was my budget to build this. And like, there was a lot of people, they were laughing at me at the start, and they were saying like, you're not going to build that for 150 grand. You're going to need like 300 grand. And I says, I won't. I says, I'll build this for that kind of money. And that's where I am.
And how long did you originally give for the project? What was your original plan?
We originally started on 2 years, and we started September, and not last September, the one before. So, and by the time the 2 years comes up, I don't think we're not going to be far off. Like, the outside's all done. I'm in the inside now. I'm just doing the first fix. I'm just putting all the insulation up into the rafters and that, trying to get that as airtight as I can. So once I get past that, then I'll be boarding and plastering then and putting the floors in downstairs. So it'll come along really quick then.
Yeah. So
I think I'm past the worst stage, like all the stuff outside, and I've been like up against the weather. And we brought our own scaffold, so I've been taking scaffold down and putting it back up about a dozen times because we didn't quite have enough. So I wouldn't say it's been a learning curve, but it ain't for the faint-hearted. Building a house on your own, ain't for the faint-hearted, and you can't. You've got to look at it like if you look at the mountain you've got to climb, you'd probably give up at the start. But if you look at it like, well, if I can just get up to that little bit today, and then tomorrow I can try and get to that little bit, and then if you look at it like stages like that, I think that's the best way to approach it. If you stand there, it's like Mount Everest, and think, God, I've got to get up there by the end of today, you're going to give up. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it, and that's like how I've looked at it from day one, really.
What's your background, Adrian? Are you a builder by trade, or have you taught yourself a lot during the project?
Not really. I've always kind of kept my hand in. Like, all the houses I've brought, I've done all them myself, and I've took roofs off, and I've built an odd extension here and there, and I've done all kind of that. And my uncle had got his own building business, and my dad was a plasterer, so I used to help them a lot when I was at school. And then I come out of school, and I was kind of sick of the building, really, because every holiday I was helping them. So I come out of school, and they wanted me to go into the building, and I wanted to go into doing cars and take an apprenticeship with engines and that. So I went into doing that. But what I didn't do, I didn't let go of the building, really. I just kept buying and selling houses. And I would buy an old house and then do it up. And I would do it all myself. And I would kind of learn hands-on, really, with it. And then my lad went to college, and he took an apprenticeship. And he turned into a really good bricklayer and plasterer. And he can build an house, really, from the ground up, from the ground to the roof, to plastering, to finishing it, to putting a kitchen in. He can do it all, really. And he can do it to probably a stage a lot better than me. So when I get stuck, I just get to him, and he comes and helps me. And this is how we've done it, really, and this is how we're going to do it for this kind of money.
Yeah. And is your son coming back to help with any of the finishing touches, or are you doing all those yourself?
Yeah, he'll come back. He come down the other day and he had a look, because as you walk into the front of the house, the entrance is the full height of the building. So I think the ceilings there is about 22 foot high from the ground level, and we've got scaffolding up there. And I says to him, look, shall we board this out while we've got the scaffold here? And initially he said, yeah. And then he come out and had a look, and he said, we'll just do it after. Because he said, if you start plasterboarding it now, he said, before you've got all the insulation in, he said, all that's going to get caked in dust. He said, you're best doing all the plastering together. So that's how we kind of do it, really. We kind of look at something and decide we're going to do this, and then have a proper look at it, and then say, no, we'll do it this way.
Hit that one. So on the project itself, what went well? What sort of went better than
all of it, really? I mean, when I was doing the ICF right at the start, and you put your first couple of rows round, and then you bond them down, and you get everything right, really nice and squared out, and then you have your concrete pumped. Everybody said, everything I'd looked at in videos and different things I'd read, everybody said, oh, that first pour, that's when it can go wrong. and you pour in like, I don't know, a couple of 100, 300, 400 ton of concrete, and it gets up to like 8 foot high, and that's, you got all that weight there. And if you pour too much in one spot, it's going to burst the wall. It's only EPS, expanded polystyrene, and it was all that, and you're kind of worried really. That was the first like major thing. I thought, if I can get that right, and then I'll be away. Then I tackled it like, I went like belt and braces with it. I went like extra timber over all the openings, because like as you creating your openings, you're putting steel in there, and then as you pump your concrete in, that acts as your lintels. So I'll just belt and brace the job really. I went overkill with everything just to make sure on the pour day everything would go well. And I found a guy on the pump, and he was really, really good, this young kid. And he come down like, and I think we wasted about a bucket full, went down the wall. And as we was going around the old build, like, so, we didn't waste anything. And
That's not bad at all.
yeah, and that really went well. And then that, once I got up to the first floor, then it spurred me on. I knew then I'll get this same lad back to do the pump again, and it'll just go well. And that's how it's gone. And I haven't really like looked back and thought, God, I wish I'd done this different, or I wish I'd done that different. In my eyes, it's always been do it right once and forget it and move on to the next stage. If you don't get this one stage right, that's going to keep coming back and biting you as you're going on. So what you really want to do, you've got to get the foundations right, and you've got to get everything right from the word go. Because if you have a hiccup on that one stage and you kind of like ignore it, it'll just come back and bite you as you get further onto it. So that's the only thing I would say really, is like I haven't had any hiccups, because I've just made sure everything's right as I'm going along. And I look back there and there's nothing I look at that I think, you know what, I wish I'd done this different, or I wish I'd done that. I'm just happy with everything the way it's gone. It's hard work, and
like won't be keen on you, Adrian. He needs more drama, that doesn't it? Grand designs for can't have it all plain sailing. So nothing went wrong from that side. Is there anything you probably already answered it, but is there anything you do slightly differently at all, or anything design wise or planning wise that you change?
Well, I sat down with it, and like my wife says, I says to her, "What do you want?" And she's like me really. She wanted a traditional looking building that like looks as though it's been here for 50, 100 years. I didn't want a building to look like it's brand new. I wanted it a certain way. I wanted it with dormers on the roof. I wanted them covered with lead, and I just wanted it looking old. I wanted rise and fall brackets. I wanted to have all the proper corbelling above all the tops, and I didn't want any plastic fascia and all that kind of thing. And I was allowed to put plastic windows in, but there's no other way you can really go with the windows, really. When you're coming down to your air tightness, there's nothing else that you can really have apart from the UPVC on the windows, really, to get down to the decent air tightness that you need, that I'm looking for. So yeah, there's nothing I would change, really. I just like it, even though it's been hard work, and I look at it sometimes, and I mean, like, here's another one. Like the neighbours, I never talk to many of the neighbours. Like, and a lot of them now, they'll come past and they know me by name now, and they say, like, they get talking to me and they say, "I can't believe you built that house all on your own." I says, "I know." I says, "I can't believe it sometimes."
It's an amazing feat, and we'll try and put. You sent me some pictures over. We'll try and put those on the link below so people can see how much you've done. How far are you off finishing time wise now? Do you think? How long do you reckon?
I think I've got till about August to get it done. I don't think I'm going to be finished then. I would like to think I'm somewhere near for Christmas. But what I do know is once I get bored in it out, it'll move on really fast then. This installation's taken a bit to do, because again I'm using like gap-out tape up in the roof, and I don't know if you've ever seen that product, but it's a really like specialist way of sealing your roof. So again, it comes down to your air tightness. So like I've learnt that much stuff about the building that I didn't know before. and like our values and you values, they just like went straight past over my head before. But now I'm having like heat pumps and all that lot, like, and it's amazing really, but it's good.
Now you're an eco build expert now.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I could
Your
probably
analysis
fill
going pretty well.
someone in.
In terms of, again, sort of cost in terms of the build, budget at the start, all on track, everything went to plan, you didn't go over
Yeah,
anything?
I had my lad managed to secure me a good trade account at Towers Timber. Basically, we said to the guy there, says, look, I said, I'll buy everything off you. I said, if you can give me a decent account. And he basically turned around and he said, I'll give you the same trade deal that I've been giving you. Basically, he gave me his trade deal. Yeah, I brought everything off him, really. I brought a little bit of wood off somebody else. I found it a little bit cheaper, but it weren't much. But the bulk of the stuff I brought off them, basically because of the cost it gets it to me.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, really. If you're going into this the way I've gone it, you really need to secure a good trade account.
Yeah, try and keep costs in check.
Because like that's where it can like really like run away from you. Cost wise, I think to date I've spent around about 87,000.
Brilliant.
Getting it to this stage. Like a lot of people look at it and I can't believe you spent that. I said, well, yeah, but I have done it all myself. I said, my brother's helped me quite a bit. He comes over like once or twice a month and he gives me a hand. And my lads helps me here and there. But that's all the help I've had. The bulk of it, it's me. I'm out there 8 in the morning till 5, 6 o'clock. And you just keep on plugging away with it.
Yeah. And is there any sort of like top tips that you'd give to anyone doing your type of project? So,
if you're going to do that,
eco-centered and doing it yourself, what's the
all you need to do is you need to turn your hands to most things. Otherwise, once you start getting somebody else, and it's going to start running away with the cost. But the other thing is you need to be organised, really. You got to think like, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing the next day? What am I doing the day after that? Have I got 4-inch screws for this? Have I got so and so for that? Have I got this for that? So you've got to make sure you've got everything that you need. Because if you start ordering stuff, you can soon, like, if you're ordering it, you need to be ordering it a week before you need it to make sure you've got it to do that job. And that's where I'm like, I'll come in at night time and I think, right, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing the next day? What am I doing the next day? Have I got this? Have I got that? Have I got that? And I'll just make sure I've got everything. So that's the only thing you need to do is organise yourself.
Keep the momentum going, keep the project going, keep it
yeah.
moving forward.
Well, it spurs you on, really. I mean, like you get other people talking to you and then you look back and you see what you've done. And it's everything, really. I mean, I built the porch on the front, mortise and tenon all the joints out on the oak. We've done it all, really. There's nothing. We had the guy to do the pump the concrete, and that's all we've had so far. And I'm on the first fix now. I'm just putting the insulation in, so all the rest of it is like boarding, and it's just like normal. And I'm on the inside as well, really, so the weather can't stop me now. Like a couple of months ago, I was out there finishing the brickwork off, and you got all that rain we've had. And I'm trying to tie plastic sheets onto the scaffold to try and keep dry, and trying to keep all the bricks and everything dry because they don't want all the mortar running down the wall. So like now all that's behind me, and I'm in the inside, so the weather can do what it wants now. So I can just crack on.
And where have you been living during the build? Have you been renting, or have you been on site? Where have you
no, when we brought this place, we started off, like I said, we was going to renovate that cottage there, and then we moved a static caravan onto the site, and that lasted about 18 months, and that was killing us, really. It was like, I remember the one night, like it weren't particularly cold, but like I moved on the pillar and it was that cold, it woke me up. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm too old to be doing this. And I just thought, I wonder if I could build a log cabin. So I go straight onto the council next morning, looks on the bloody website, looks on the council's planning portal, and I could build a log cabin under 30 square metres without any planning permission. But I'd needed building regs to sleep in it, so I'll just get the building regs sorted. Within 3 months, I'd put that up, and we were living in that. So luckily enough, we've been living in this log cabin, but it's only it's 30 square metres, so it's not massive. But luckily, there's only me and the wife, so if you fall out, you soon get to make up in a small space.
What are you going to do post-completion? To keep it on site for like an annex, or are you going to...
No, it's like, well, it's funny, it's really, because this property lies in the green belt. In order to like get the planning passed, we had to agree to take the cottage down when it's finished, and we've got to remove this log cabin. So that's fair enough. If that's what it means, so we can get the building passed on that, then that's fair enough, and we will adhere to that.
Would you ever do it again? Would you do another project after this, or are you done now?
There's quite a few people have asked me that, and I would build an ICF house again. Whether I'd build it for myself, I don't know, because I think I'm 60 now, and I think I'm a bit too old to be climbing roofs. When you get to 60 and you start getting up in the morning, when you've been on this building game for the last 12 months, you start to feel it. So I've still got a hell of a lot of work to do on this property. Like, I've got to take the old cottage down, and I've got to build walls and different things. So as far as we go, I think we'll be happy enough with where we are. But if somebody comes to me and they want an ICF house building, I'll definitely PM that for them.
Yeah, amazing. And just give a bit more about the sort of the final project. So how many bedrooms have you got?
It's 11 metres by 8 metres. It works out, the walls, with it being ICF and having our brick skin on the outside, it's like the walls are about 2 foot thick. So it's a bit like a castle, really. We've got 3 bedrooms, but our bedroom is about 26 foot long. My lad says, don't work in feet and inches, work in metres. I can't think what 26 foot long is in metres. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, so our bedroom's massive, really. We could have turned it into a 4, but it'd end up the 4th bedroom being a bit small. But it works out, I think we're about 180 square metres in total volume internal. So it's plenty big enough, really.
Fair enough. Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your build, and yeah, hopefully it'll inspire people to build themselves. So yeah, cheers, Adrian. Thank you very much.